This video is for you if you feel like your wife or your girlfriend jumps down your throat in every single conflict. We're going to talk about 3 things that you can do to make sure that stops happening. Ready? Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. All right, so if any disagreements within your relationship, within your marriage, turns into a dumpster fire very quickly and she is coming at you with everything she has, there are 3 things that you can do from your perspective that are within your control that can move your relationship and the conflict within it to a healthier place. Now, I will say the 3 things that I'm about to present, you cannot skip through. If you want to do this the right way, you need to go step 1, step 2, and then step 3 in order to get the impact that you're looking for. So please do not fast forward. You need to do these things in order. You can't skip steps here because if you do, you're not going to take the full impact and take your own ownership of how you might be contributing to what's going on here. So if you take all 3 things in order, I promise you it will create some separation between what you're experiencing now and what you want to experience, which is a beautiful, connected, healthy relationship. So step 1, you are going to ask yourself from a place of humility and self-awareness, is there anything here that I should take ownership for? Did I in fact cause pain or harm that is causing this reaction from her? What can I take responsibility for in this moment that will allow her to see that I understand why she might be frustrated? And again, you could try to skip past that step and just observe that she's coming in hot and she should be held responsible for her energy. But if you were the one that did some stuff that caused that reaction from her, the mirror should be the first place you look in terms of who to point a finger at. If you did something that created this energy from within her, there's something to be said from that. Step 2, check in with your own energy as she is coming your way. If you are defensive, if you're not present, if you're distracted, that might cause her to try to get to a higher level so she can get through, because people that are not heard tend to get louder. I'm going to say that one more time because it's really important. People that are not heard, that don't feel seen, that feel neglected, tend to get louder because they feel like that is the only way to get through to someone who's not paying attention. From a place of self-awareness and humility, how's my energy? What's my body language showing her? Am I open to this conversation or am I closed off? Am I present? Am I giving her eye contact, or am I on my phone finding things to do that don't necessarily have to do with her? If your energy feels dismissive, she's going to crank it up a notch and you're going to be sitting back saying, what the hell is going on? What's going on is she doesn't think you're paying attention, so she's trying to get you to pay attention. So you need to check in with your energy and how you're receiving whatever she's sharing with you. All right, so now that you've done step 1 and step 2, you've honestly taken a look at yourself and any influence you might have in terms of what she's bringing to the table. Step 3 is if you feel like you've looked at step 1 and step 2, meaning you've looked at your actions and how they might be impacting her behavior and her emotional state, and you've looked at your energy and said, you know what, I feel like I'm pretty present. I feel like I'm not being super defensive. All right, we've checked those boxes. Step 3 is if I feel like I'm showing up in a healthy space, if I'm showing up with good faith to these conversations, we need to start drawing some boundaries here and demonstrating the energy of respect and rapport. Because after taking a look at how you might be influencing how she's showing up to these conversations, if you don't feel it's justified with the energy she's bringing to you, then we need to start kind of carving out what does a healthy dynamic look like and start demonstrating that so that we can get things back on the right track. Because if you're just sitting there as a doormat and letting her lay into you because you feel like that's the right thing to do, that's going to become the pattern of how conflict happens. So you're going to have to step up and from a place of leadership and demonstration say, listen, I understand that you're frustrated. I can see that you're angry, but we're not going to speak to each other like this. We're not going to navigate conflict in this way because when we do, it never gets resolved. So I'm willing to sit here in this conversation with you. I want to listen to what you have to say, but let's make sure that we're doing it in a way that we can actually hear each other and want to be a part of this conversation. When chaos ensues and shit hits the fan, somebody has to be the leader in that dynamic. She might be upset that you might be pushing back and telling her that there needs to be some boundaries here, but overall, you do that enough times and start to steer this thing back to a healthy dynamic, the better things get. So it is in everyone's best interest that someone starts to lay out what it should look like if we're going to do this in a way that actually works for our relationship. And the reason I said don't skip steps here is because if you start to draw those boundaries or let her know she can't talk to you like this without some self-awareness, without inspecting how you've been showing up, now you're just pushing back on her for the sake of pushing back on her and possibly scapegoating her energy as a means to not really reflect on how you may have contributed to things. So it's really important that step 1 and step 2 are acknowledged in this process. You need to build some self-awareness and ask yourself, how have I contributed to what we're experiencing? Have I said some things that I regret and maybe have harmed her? Have I done some things that may have caused pain? Is my energy not super receptive to having an honest conversation about where we're at right now? Because if you do those things and you've checked those boxes and you feel like you're doing things in a healthy way, all right, now we need to look at how things are playing out and saying, listen, I love you. I care about you. Here are some boundaries and some rules and regulations, if you will, that I think are useful to getting us to the new season of our relationship. Because right now we're in this cycle, and that cycle is likely due to conflict not being navigated very well. If you feel like you've shown up in good faith, you've had good energy, and you've taken responsibility for your actions, steer the ship back on course, but only after you've taken a genuine, honest look at your own behavior and how it has played out within the conflict. Because pointing the finger at her behavior and saying, you got to stop doing that without looking at how you may have impacted things, that's just not showing up in good faith. So follow these 3 steps. And if you do those and you execute those well, conflict is going to be cleaned up within your relationship. And that's what I know you came here for. That's how she's going to stop jumping down your throat and you can actually have a conversation without trying to kill each other, which nobody wants. And if you take that and you run with it and you see some success, stick around here, because this entire channel is built to help men and committed couples on creating the relationship that they want, not the one that they have been running on by default because they didn't have the tools. So make sure you subscribe. See you next time.